Good evening, everyone. I am back once again to talk about the Polymega Retro Game Console. And on this video, I'm going to answer the question, could the Polymega create a retro game sharing culture? Now, this question stems from a conversation that I had with my friend Mike about the Polymega. We were talking about the Nintendo Switch and the Polymega, and basically I hyped up the Nintendo Switch and my friend Mike bought one, and he was asking me, why haven't I bought the Switch yet? And I said, it was off to a slow start. There's not a lot of games. They haven't done the online retro multiplayer yet, so I'm holding off until there's something that I really want to play on it. But that leads to this question: what is the Polymega aiming to be? And from everything I see, the Polymega is aiming to be a high-level product, a high-level retro gaming product that we have not seen before. There's two main consoles that most people would compare it to at this point, and that's the Retron 5 and the Retro Freak. Now, Hyperkin makes the Retron 5, and in my opinion, they have great looking products. The performance is mid to lower, mid-grade tier, I believe, just based off the few products I've had from them. The Retro Freak, it's a product that looks like it's about a mid-grade product. I don't have one myself, but that product's made mainly for the Japanese market, and I believe there's a UK version of it as well. Now, what these two consoles can do compared to the Polymega: the Retron 5 will allow you to play an array of different cartridge-based systems, and what you can do with it is it dumps the ROM to the console, and then you're able to play it. So it doesn't actually allow you to dump the ROM and save it for play later. Now, the Retro Freak actually lets you do that. So you can dump the ROM to the Retro Freak, and you could play it later without the cartridge actually in there. Now, with the Retron 5, you're able to download ROMs and play them from the Retron 5, but you gotta, put an SD card in the console and get the ROMs from the computer. Now, the Polymega is not aiming to do anything with the ROMs per se. And I'm gonna share their website again here tonight, because I want to go over one question in their FAQ. All right, let's take a look at the Polymega's website. So this is their official website. Now let's go down to the FAQ here. So, like I said, the Polymega is aiming to be a higher level retro product, something that we have not seen yet. And this question answers quite what this thing is going to be. And where is it here? Will I be able to dump my ROMs on the Polymega and play them? And here is the answer to their question. While the direct importing of ROMs will not be supported, you can bet we want to find an alternative, legal ways to bring classic gaming into your living room and respect the copyrights of publishers. In the interest of preservation and reducing wear and tear on your classic games, Polymega does allow you to back up cartridge and disc-based games you own from your personal collection via the console itself. You can play them without having to insert the games or matching module once installed. Okay, so that last sentence is pretty important there, and gives you a good idea what the Polymega is. So this is not going to be a retro Pi console. This is not going to be a Retron 5 where you could play ROMs, and it's not going to be a Retro Freak where you could download ROMs and play them as well. So it's aiming to respect the cartridge-based games, the copyrights and publishers of the disc-based games as well, and that means you have to have the actual physical game to be able to download the game to the console. And it says you can play it later, even without the cartridge or the disc. So here is where I answer the question, could the Polymega create a game sharing culture? Because what people could do, in a sense, is they can take their games and they can put them on another person's Polymega. So for instance, the last video I did on the Polymega, it was me and my brother talking about it. And, you know, we grew up in the same household. And when I moved out of the house, I didn't take all the retro games. I didn't take anything right away. But as a few years went by, I started to take some of the stuff from my parents' house where we both grew up together living. And, you know, he was kind of getting frustrated at some point because he felt like I was taking part of his childhood away from him. And, you know, I felt kind of bad about that. But it seems like with the Polymega, that this could create a solution to that problem. Now, if they are able to pull off this high-level hybrid emulation, which means not only can you play the game off of the console in its true form, but also when it's downloaded to the console in its true form. Now, I don't know if any emulation is 100% perfect, but if they get it pretty darn close with their hybrid emulation and it's looked at as a high-level gaming experience, then people could take their games and share them with their friends. So that's where I'm asking the question. If this thing does see market in the current way that it is being portrayed, there would be nothing stopping me from taking my game collection, which I grew up with my brother using the same games. If we both had a Polymega, then I could download some games to his system, even though they're at my house, or technically I own the games. So there could be basically an option to share games with each other. So that's where the conversation with my friend Mike comes in. I was telling him about the Polymega because I'm kind of like uneasy about the Nintendo Switch at this point with all the stuff going on. And this console is exciting me more than anything else that's looking to come out. And basically what I was telling Mike what it is, he's like, man, if you could share those games with me, like the game collection you have with me, if you could share some of those games, then I will buy a Polymega. So that could only be good for the Polymega team, because that means they could sell more hardware, which is where they would make their money. And then the retro gaming community would be able to share some of their games with, you know, their friends or people that they know. So all you really need to have is a physical copy of the game between you and a few friends, or you and your brother, or whatever. And then you could all take advantage of that game. I don't think there's going to be any way that they can stop that from happening. If you download, let's say I download Destruction Derby from the PlayStation onto the console, I don't think there's going to be any way for the console to then recognize that that specific disc that's where the download was coming from. If I share it with my brother, who also has a Polymega, and he downloads that game to his console. So that being said, it could create a retro game sharing culture. And I think if this thing sees market at its high level emulation that they're saying it is, then this could create something brand new that we haven't seen quite like this yet in the retro gaming community. Because I believe that if this does come out, like they say it's going to, with this high level emulation, and you could still play the games from the actual cartridge, the retro gaming collectors are going to be the ones that adopt this console. And these are the people who have already invested in the games. And if they're still buying games, then that means they're going to have some money for the Polymega. And if it is, they're already saying it's less than the Switch. If they give a retro style console with the modern amenities, the people that are collecting these games are going to have the money to buy this console. So, you know, this is something to think about. What do you guys think about the retro game sharing? Is this something that you think can happen with the release of the Polymega? Do you think that there's something wrong with sharing your games if it's able to download them and play them straight from the console? I don't know. What do you think? It's just something that I thought about, because if this is something that you're able to do, you download the game to the console, it looks like, you know, their interface is super clean. They have nice thumbnails for each game. They even have a little description of what that game is, and you can rate it. It's going to feel just like it is if you're scrolling through your games on an Xbox 360, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3, that's an official game that you have on your console. And I don't know about you guys, but with all these mini systems coming out to just play the games in HD, I'm pretty much to the point where I have all the games that I want to play. You know, 90% of my favorite games have already come out. There's still that 10% room for new games that come out that I could like, but for the most part, they're already out. And I don't want to keep rebuying these games, and I definitely don't want to buy them digitally. So, you know, this is where the Polymega comes in. This is the hybrid and the best between both worlds, and something that, you know, most gamers probably don't think about because they're not retro sports gamers like me. But these retro sports games that I play, they're some of my favorite games. And if they have licensing from the official leagues like Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, NBA, NFL, National Football League, and NHL, these games are never going to be re-released in their true form because of the licensing agreement with the players and even the teams. So these games are set concrete. They're never being re-released in their true form because they're never going to be able to get all those players, you know, basically permission to re-release the game because they're not part of the Players Association anymore. So, you know, a lot of these games that get re-released that, you know, are like Nintendo properties or Sega properties, that's just not true for retro sports games. So that's why a console like this is definitely in my interest. So I've said enough. What do you guys think? Is there something wrong about the retro game sharing? Would you guys do it? Do you think this is cool? Do you think this could drop the price of some of the crazy retro games like Little Samson, even Earthbound? I know it's coming out on that SNES Mini, but, you know, just to bring it over to a friend's house, download it so they can play the game in its truest form, and then there you go. It drops the price of the game. I don't know. I could probably do another video just on that in itself, and I might do that. But what do you guys think? I've talked enough tonight. Thanks for watching.